So again, why don't we start and tell us a little bit
Okay.
more about yourself, your background, your family, and just so that folks, get a little bit of an understanding about your story.
Okay. Let's see. We were living in South Florida, Michael and I, for probably, I was there for maybe 12, 13, 14 years. And we moved back to Arizona to be closer to my family. And I have a daughter that is about 15 years older than Ethan. So we were here, and then all of a sudden, surprise, I was pregnant, and it was unplanned. And so we decided we were going to have Ethan. And so the reason I mention that is because a lot of parents are trying to learn about autism and what to do when they're preparing for pregnancy. And I did not prepare for pregnancy. And I'm learning now that that's important. So I wanted to put that out there. So anyway, Ethan was born premature at 28 weeks. And he was born emergency cesarean. So during that procedure, I'm sure that I was given large doses of antibiotics because it was an emergency surgery. So he was then exposed most likely to antibiotics at that time and born cesarean, which is pretty common in kids with autism, I'm learning. Also, so being born cesarean, he didn't pass through the vaginal birth canal. Being born so premature, he had a little bit of issues there. He stayed in the NICU for about 2 months, and was born at about 2 pounds, 10 ounces. And so he gradually got to be 5 pounds, and they discharged us, and we took him home. So we had many, many rounds of issues with severe ear infections and mass dose of antibiotics to correct those ear infections. So I'm thinking it was about 6 different times that he, in the first year and a half of life, was exposed to lots of antibiotics. So with him being born cesarean, exposed to lots of antibiotics, and not breastfed, he just didn't have a good microbiome to start with.
Yes.
So anyway, he also developed really, really severe diarrhea and acidic diarrhea that would just burn and eat the skin right off of him. So he had a lot of really severe GI issues going on from about 15 months old all the way up until I found this study and found Professor Adams. But prior to that, I had tried to figure out what is this diarrhea that is just eating the skin off my baby's bottom, and what can I do to fix this? And also he was diagnosed with autism at about 22 months old. So he was about 2 when we got him diagnosed. So let me back up a little bit. When I noticed him regressing was probably around 15, 16 months old. And he had gone through rounds of vaccinations and gone through all of these bouts of being sick over and over again. And then just all of a sudden seemed to really regress right at that age. And lost eye contact, lost all of his language, lost all of his ability to respond to anything, but even his startle reflex was gone. So it just seemed like he fell off the cliff. And I know a lot of parents know exactly what I'm talking about with regressive autism. You see them being sick, and then boom, off the cliff, which is what happened with us. And so I tried to get somebody to see that he was regressing and we were experiencing this. And all at one time we were having other family issues, my mom being diagnosed with a really rare form of cancer, issues with, having a teenager about to graduate high school, just all of those normal life issues. And then you add this little guy who's having all these issues to the mix. So I was in a lot of chaos and I was not able to work. I know a lot of moms are able to do that. God bless them. I don't know how they do it. And that's one thing I want to put out here real quick. the things that I've been able to do and the research I've been able to put into this and the amount of time that I've been able to put into this with Ethan, I could not do without Michael Loyola.
Mm-hmm.
He supported me.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan's dad is amazing. He's my silent partner, and he supported me in all of this. So I got to say happy Father's Day to him, and thank you so much to him, because he's my unsung hero. I get a lot of credit out here, and people do a lot of interviews with me, you know, but I wanted to put that out there that he's my rock and been supporting me through this. And if it weren't for him, I could not do this. So,
Yeah, you know what? Let me just take a moment, because we just needed to restart this, and probably we're going to need to delete the other video. But you know, for those that are, you know, just watching us right now, Dana is the mom of Ethan, and Ethan is one of the 18 kids that were part of Dr. Adams's Microbiota Transfer Therapy trial. And today we're doing this on Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to everyone that is watching. And yeah, absolutely. So it is. It's interesting how important it is that, you know, couples stay together, and it's important that these relationships really stick, and you know, you're there to support one another. So thank you for sharing that, Dana. So before we talk about the treatments, I guess I would like to ask you, how has autism impacted your life personally? Before we talk about all the treatments, you know, what can you tell us about that?
well, it's impacted my life in a million different ways. Things that people will tell you will impact you, and things that you don't ever think would. Um, it's changed the way I view humanity and people, and it's given me a lot different outlook as far as perspective taking. We're working a lot on that the last 2 years with Ethan. We'll get more into that in a minute, but so I just have a completely different perspective. I'm more apt to try to forgive people for whatever's going on in their life, because, you know, we don't always understand what other people are experiencing. I really try not to judge other people. So, and more than anything, I'm aware of other parents out there that are really struggling. I can go to the grocery store. I know, you know, I'll go anywhere in public and I see a kid who's really having a hard time, or a parent who's having a hard time with that kid. And I recognize that from far away. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, is I'm paying it forward. I was one of those moms. I was struggling. I was having a really hard time. We stayed home. We didn't go out. You know, so I want to give some hope out there to some other parents who are doing exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
You know, when they're first diagnosed, you stay home. We were dealing with a lot of moderate to severe issues. Some issues really severe, you know, fecal smearing, no language, transition issues, just moving from one room to the other, or one event to the other, turning off the TV that's playing his favorite show on a loop and going to a different task can be overwhelming. And these things were all really hard. So I wanted to offer some hope out there for parents who are going through those kind of issues, that I'm trying to help participate and get some awareness out there, so people know that maybe someday this will get approved, and they'll have some hope, because our lives have changed tremendously, and I would like it for everybody.
Yeah. So give us
Sorry, I get a little off. So
no, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. So that's what we're looking for. I mean, just you know, the bird as you see fit. Obviously, this is you know, we want to hear your perspective. So this is great. So why don't you give us a 30,000-foot view of your journey with autism? So once you realized that Ethan was on the spectrum, or he was diagnosed, what happened?
Well, for me and for a lot of parents, and I think that this is one of the most important things one other autism mom had told me, and I've read many other parents say, we have to pick and choose our battles. We have to know that our child is an individual, and not all kids with this label are the same. We all have similar issues, or many of us have similar issues. It's really common to have GI issues, for instance, but everybody's body is different and everybody responds differently. So some of the things I've done with Ethan have worked fantastically, but they might not work for your child.
Mhm.
However, I suggest giving things a try, doing a lot of research, getting to know your child really well, and then just trusting your gut instinct and going for it. You know, that's what I did. So we initially went to a GI specialist who was with Phoenix Children's Hospital, who, he's an older doctor. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but the very first thing he asked was, well, he saw that Ethan had the label autism, and he immediately went to, oh, well, he has autism, so this is autism, GI symptoms, that's what it's going to be. And I tried to explain to him that, there's this acidic diarrhea and it's eating his skin off, and he's debilitated to the point where he's cramped up and wearing diapers and curling up over the side of the couch or a ball or something, panting and breathing his way through a bowel movement, sounding like a woman in labor. These things aren't normal. They're painful, and trying to explain to him that I need help. What can I do for this child? And the answer that I was given was, well, let's do an x-ray. He's probably impacted. Well, he's got a lot of poop in there. He's not impacted, but here's a prescription for Miralax. Just give him that every day. That'll make him poop. So I went home and I did that. And I saw some psychotic behaviors in my child that I have never seen before. And I thought about it and went, okay, I need to do some homework. I need to research what these ingredients are. What am I putting into my child? What is this doing? And the more research I did, the more I thought there has to be a better way. So as I'm looking into research, coincidentally, Professor Adams is with the Autism Society here and was giving a few different talks. And he had done talks about not microbials, but nutrients. And he had done a lot of research, and I'd heard him speak a few times. And I was really interested in natural instead of medicinal things to see what I could do. Because I had lost a little bit of trust, and I was really trying to find an answer, especially when this doctor is telling me this is autism and okay, he has autism, he's going to have diarrhea and be in a diaper for the rest of his life. That's not acceptable to me. So I just kept looking, and I started researching and reading all of the Autism Research Institute's studies and listening to Adam's talk, and it just seemed like my son would be a great fit. Slowly but surely, I started doing some things with Ethan from the time he was about, I'd say 3. We started on melatonin at 3, and he was able to sleep. So life changed when my child started sleeping the full night, more than an hour and 45 minutes at a time. And I stopped being a crazy person because I was no longer sleep deprived, and I was easier to deal with too. So that helped. And then slowly I started researching, and at the same time, there's many puzzle pieces. We're taking them to speech therapy, occupational therapy. We're doing 36 hours a week of habilitation in the home, ABA therapy. We're just feeding therapy, trying to expose them to better foods and teach them how to eat, and just all these things at one time. And I was trying everything, but I really didn't want it to be about diet. I really didn't want it to be about those things.
Wow.
And because I want to say lazy, but I knew that it was going to be work, a lot of work, and I was not interested in more work. So I wanted to try everything but. So I did. I tried everything but the diet, everything but that. And he was making progress, but the diarrhea wasn't going away. We still had transition issues. He was gaining some language, but it was still drawn out and slow. So I did an elimination diet on my own.
If I can stop you for a second, Dana, because I think what there's something that you're saying that is super important, right? So I guess it is most parents' reaction to try to outsource the solution, right? I mean, it seems like we try to find the therapist, we try to find the teacher, we try to find the doctor that is going to just come and fix the issue. And then there's a point when you realize that you cannot really outsource this thing. You have to really be hands-on in terms of the diets, because it takes a lot of work, right? So once you realize that, for example, diet is important, right? You realize how much work it can be. There are a lot of exclusion diets, which is what you're alluding to right now, and those things take a lot of time, and you have to get involved. So I guess I just wanted to kind of highlight that aspect of it, because I guess we all go through the same process, and it's not something that you just can say to somebody else, just come and just kind of fix it, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. So and that's exactly it. You can try to avoid these things, or I could try to avoid that, but it only made sense to me that what's coming out of the body is a result of what's going into the body. So I knew that something I was putting in his gut was helping create the problem. So I started by eliminating first gluten, which was difficult. And I didn't do like a lot of moms can do, where they just go crazy, rip everything out of the cupboard, and then start fresh. I knew that that would create some crazy behaviors in my house. So we did it very gradually. We took away his favorite cookies and replaced them with a different gluten-free cookie. And then we replaced the French fries that he was eating at McDonald's that are soaked in all kinds of junk with healthy fried potatoes we were doing ourselves, and taught him to eat those. And it's been really gradual. And I won't say we do not have a fantastic diet. We just avoid the things that he's allergic to right now. So my future goals are that, teaching him to eat better. But that said, we found Professor Adams. We found, actually my husband, or Michael, had gone to take Ethan to therapy and had known that I was listening to the Autism Society and a lot of their talks, and saw a poster on the bulletin board flyer saying that they were getting ready to do a microbial transfer, or at that time they were calling it a beneficial bacteria transfer, and we're looking for people interested in the study, and he was going to talk about it and see if it was something we were interested in. So Michael gave me the flyer, and I immediately went to that to listen to him speak, and everything that he was talking about, I knew Ethan would fit right into that category, as far as being, not being naturally born through a birth canal, not being breastfed, having several rounds of antibiotics. He was most likely a candidate for a really poor microbiome. So I had a feeling that if I could it just made sense. If we could fix what's going on in the gut, maybe his poop would be better. So I really, really wanted to be a part of that. And I had been reading a lot, like I said, of Adams's research. And I had noticed, and I won't call out this doctor's name, but I had noticed there was a naturopath in one of those studies that also was a local physician. So I made an appointment to go see that doctor, and started talking to him about some of my issues with Ethan. And he was the first doctor besides Adams that would actually listen to me and not attack me for crazy conspiracy theory type ideas or whatever. So, and he was open to whatever I was interested in testing for. So he worked on testing for yeast, and we did a little work with that, and we increased a few things. We tested how his vitamin, mineral levels were, and blood levels were, and we put him on vitamin D for a while and increased that, and we did B12 shots for a while, about a year and a half, and so we were slowly working on a lot of biomedical things before we got to the MTT transfer, which I think is important. A lot of parents are asking me, well, was it just this? I want them to know that this was a long journey to get to this point, and this for us was the tipping point in change. So we were getting change all along with all these things we were doing, and we had language. I mean, he was tested in the severe to moderate range. He did have language. He would speak very slow, and he would videotape himself on his iPad talking to Talking Tom in one of those apps where the cat talks back and mimics what he says and entertain himself. And he had a lot of videos of himself doing that. So
let me ask you: did you test his severity somehow before the trial? Did you do an ATEC or something like that to?
They had us do a Vinland scale test. They had us do a couple different tests, and I'll be honest with you, it's been almost 5 years, and I can't quite remember the names of those tests. But I do know that it's listed on the site, on the website, everything that we did through the study. So if people are interested in seeing which tests we did. And I do recall after the study having a long conversation with Adams on the phone when he told me, so you know that he was testing in the moderate to severe range prior to this study, but did you know how well he's doing afterwards? And I said, I know how well, but what do we look like on paper? And So we talked about it, and on paper, Ethan tests about 2 points away from a neurotypical child.
Oh, wow.
And he blends really well now with typical kids.
Wow.
So yeah, that's
Wow.
kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. So Ethan's story actually was recently featured in an article that was produced by the Smithsonian, and you know his progress was described as miraculous by
Yes.
by you guys, and
Yeah.
you know, so and it says that you were able to see a start of a side of Ethan that you hadn't seen before. So
Yes.
so why don't you kind of give us kind of just how that those improvements started to emerge and what you were able to observe as he was in the trial.
Sure. So prior to the trial, like I said, he was making those videos and talking to himself, and he would talk but slowly, and his sentences were maybe 4 and 5 words tops. But his conversation was mostly talking to himself or requesting things, and a lot of echolalia and a lot of movie quotes over and over again, Disney quotes. So during the study, as the study started, he was still using pull-ups to go to the bathroom. He was still hiding in corners. He was still doing a lot of flapping and stimming and chewing, and yeah, so he was still in that range. And he did have conversation, or did have speech, but it wasn't conversational speech. So a few, probably, I don't remember exactly how long into the study it was, but at some point, not too long into the beginning of the study, as it had begun, I noticed Ethan, we were using that, you have to collect stool samples, and we had that plastic hat in the toilet, and he was suddenly, without being prompted, going in there and using that hat instead of grabbing a pull-up and hiding to go to the bathroom. So suddenly, as his stool was becoming more and more normal, quote, more and more like a good, healthy stool, the less and less he was reaching for those pull-ups, and the more he would just go sit on the toilet himself and go, and then come and get me and say, check it out, look what I did, So, and it was kind of cool because he was potty training himself after 5.5 years of trying and doing the 99 steps to getting him on the potty, and all of a sudden he just was doing it and showing me on his own. And then
this was how many weeks into the trial?
Excuse me?
This was how many weeks into the trial?
I want to say it was about 2 weeks in. It wasn't very far into the study.
Oh, wow.
He just said he was feeling better.
Right.
And so we were seeing changes in, it didn't hurt, I guess. And that's what I would equate it to. Just the cramping must have started to go away, and he didn't feel like he needed to hide and pant and push. He just would sit and go.
Wow.
And so, also I had bought a squatty potty. Everybody's heard of those, for him to put his feet up on to make it really comfortable. I mean, anybody who's tried to potty train a kid on the spectrum knows you'll try anything from giving them the iPad on the toilet to throwing a party in the bathroom to squatty potties to whatever. So our bathroom was set and ready for him to go. And he did. And he trained himself that quick.
Okay.
So then another thing that happened, I was in bed, and I had become accustomed to, morning tantrums, grouchiness. I want food. I want juice. I want bacon, whatever it is. And one morning I woke up to somebody just right here in my face, smiling, really big smile. And when I opened my eyes, he's, "Good morning, Mom."
Wow.
And I just started to cry because I had never had Mr. Smiley, "Hi, let's get up, let's do something, day." So it was right in my face, right there. There's a change. That was a big one. And then I think about halfway through the study, not even halfway through, but I don't remember the exact time frame because so many changes were happening, and it was emotional. You're watching your kid just suddenly become somebody else, and it's, well, I don't want to say suddenly become somebody, but you're watching him emerge. Yep. This person you knew was in there is suddenly asking questions, and he came up to me with that iPad and that Talking Tom video and said, he's watching himself and watching himself, and he says, Mom, why did I talk like that?
Oh, wow.
And I could cry right now just thinking about it, because his level of awareness of self was different.
Wow.
So at the same time, we were not telling our therapist what we were doing, because I was keeping it quiet until results were published. And we weren't really supposed to be talking about it until we were published. So it's really hard to keep results quiet when his speech therapist and his teacher and his occupational therapist and his feeding therapist are all asking me, what are you doing differently? Did you change his supplements? Are you doing some new, what are you doing? And me saying, I don't know, isn't it great?
Yeah.
He's growing like crazy, and trying to play it off like, yeah, this is just Ethan. He's just making progress.
And
then
just to clarify,
after the
Ethan
study,
was how old at the beginning of the trial?
at the beginning, he was 7.
Okay.
And then we did the follow-up at 9 years old, of course. That was the second follow-up study. And he just continues to make fantastic progress. He, not too long after the study was completed, his speech therapist had come to me and said, he's met all of his goals. I don't really know what to do, so let's work on social thinking and perspective taking. And so she went and took a class and tried to work that into his goals. But he just kept climbing and making progress, and she just couldn't keep up with him. So eventually, when he started complaining to me, why do I have to go to speech therapy? Clearly I can speak. That's when I knew maybe it's time to let go of speech therapy, because I'm holding on to this for me and my fear of change. Oh God. And I let go of it. So he graduated from speech therapy and he graduated from occupational therapy, and we worked really hard at getting him approved for behavioral therapy. And we got in with a group called CFSS, which is Child Family Support Services here. And it's a relationship-based behavioral program that works on perspective taking and social thinking issues with pretty high functioning kids. So we went from being in the severe to moderate range and trying to teach him how to communicate to now he's in the really high functioning range, and trying to teach him, that other people have thoughts and feelings and how to make friends. And this year he had his first girlfriend. And he was actually concerned with her feelings and her emotions and wanted to buy her a Valentine's Day present. Wow. So these are all huge changes in my life.
So how old is he now?
He's 12 now.
Okay.
Just turned 12.
So it's 5 years since the trial started, basically. So can you walk us through how the protocol of the trial looked? I mean, so what kinds of things did you need to do? What was the kind of treatment you guys needed to follow? What were you asked to do? How the whatever material it is that you needed to provide looked like, those kinds of details?
Okay. Well, prior to this study, of course, you had to qualify. You couldn't be, he had to be able to say that he wanted to participate in the study and be able to acknowledge that we were working on trying to fix his tummy. So the children had to be able to understand what they were participating in. And so he was at that level. He could say, yes, I need medicine to fix my tummy. It hurts. So that being said, that's the level that most of the kids were at. When we started the study, we could not change our diet, but we were already gluten-free and already dairy-free. But during the study, they did a lot of lab work, and which with Great Plains Laboratories, and we confirmed that yes, Ethan definitely has some allergies. And through that testing, we confirmed that he has a severe casein allergy, gluten allergy, a lot of different nuts, eggs, whatever. So that was important because it backed up already what I knew was going on in there. But we were already, like I said, keeping him on a diet. So we were told to keep him, not change anything, not take him off any of his supplements, not change his diet. So we did nothing different. When we participated in the study, it started off with a round of vancomycin, which was to kill off all of the bad bacteria that was in his entire system. And then Immediately followed that with MobiPrep, which is the same stuff they use to do a colonoscopy. It completely cleanses everything out. So first we killed all the bugs, then we flushed them all out of his system. And then we followed up with a super high dose of beneficial bacteria, which was a little bit different than the regular, the clear liquid that we were getting. The super high dose was chocolate milk colored, and we put it in chocolate milk and disguised it in a shot glass. And we did that in the doctor's office with Professor Adams and a pediatrician to make sure that we had no weird responses. And that was at the same time some of the other kids were doing enemas. Ethan was drinking it, and he held it down. After that,
So sorry, just let me just clarify this. So there were some kids that were doing enemas in the trial, and then there were others that were taking it oral.
Yes, there were a couple of children who I understand were given enemas, but that were given it rectally, and then were held in the supine position and taken home so that it would stay. I knew my son was not going to be one of those kids that was going to do that without a full-on fight. Luckily, we were not chosen to be one of those kids. So Ethan did drink that liquid there in their office. And then also they were testing. We did a lot of things as far as sending in stool samples continuously pre-study and all throughout the study. We were taking stool samples and sending them into the lab so they could continue to see and monitor what was going on with his gut. And for about 8 weeks after the initial first dose that day, for about 8 weeks after, every single day, Ethan would drink a clear dose of microbiota liquid, which was, what that is it's not the same as a fecal transplant. And I want parents to know that there's a big difference between a fecal transplant and a microbial transplant. Because I've heard some things out there and some negative things about these fecal transplants. And I know a lot of parents really going to their doctors, even willing to go out of country and try to get a fecal transplant. Well, in this case, this was an 8-week long dose, repeated dose. And I couldn't tell you for sure, and I'm sure Adams is wanting to do a lot of studies to follow up to find out for sure. Was it the vancomycin that helped us that on top of the MTT? Was it that it was liquid? Was it, we're not sure. And that's why there need to be follow-up studies to figure out how come this works so well. And, but I'll back up. So anyway, he drank that clear microbiota liquid that was clear like water, didn't have any smell. No odor, no taste. Well, I didn't taste it. We put it into, I put it into cranberry juice in a shot glass, and he would drink that every morning thinking he was just getting a shot of grape juice and go about his day. And I would give him an antacid tablet. We did Pepsid AC with it to reduce the stomach acid so that it wouldn't kill those microbes, and it would make it all the way into the small intestine. So doing that over a long period of time is very different than taking feces and doing an enema and planting that in a child's GI tract. So that, and the length of time, because it's my understanding that in Australia, when Dr. Barodi was doing transplants, part of why Professor Adams thought this would work so well is doing it over a long period of time to really colonize the GI tract, to really build up that colony. And when we did after the study, and I had seen so much great things with Ethan, and he kept making progress. Like I said, we ended up quitting speech, quitting occupational therapy, and focusing on different things. And he just continued to make such great strides. The next time I saw him at one of the Autism Society functions, I said, hey, when are you going to get back with us and do a follow-up study? And apparently I wasn't one of the only parents who thought that, because a few other moms had been pestering him about the same thing. And he finally got back to us. And actually, Devin got back to me and said, hey, we're going to do a follow-up study. Are you willing to do it? Am I? Of course.
Yep.
I would like to know what's going on and if it's still there. Did it remain? Now, after this study, Ethan did not get sick anymore as far as getting colds and every little thing that came along. His immune system was much stronger. So he didn't miss school anymore. You know, in the beginning, prior to the study, he was missing school and only attending about 3 days a week. After the study, he doesn't miss school at all. He's not getting sick when anybody comes to school with any cold. I mean, of course he gets sick occasionally, but he doesn't get sick like he used to, where somebody came into school with a cold and then that's it. We're home for the next 3 weeks because he's got it and he can't fight it off. Now, if he catches something, it's a 24-hour bug or, a day or two, and then he gets better and, his body's able to fight it off.
Let me just stop you for a second, Dana. I'm sure that many parents right now are just speechless right now listening to you, like I am. Honestly, I mean, hearing you telling us that that you basically provided like shots of grape juice with some clear stuff, and that was able to get all the benefits that you're describing is just mind-boggling. It's just too much. I mean, it really makes you wonder what is stopping these trials from being provided to more people. Like I just want to say, because I mean, I'm sure that's really what is in people's minds. But I guess I would just like to continue by asking you. So what are you have described some of the benefits, right? So speech, behavior, socialization. Can you kind of just give us a little bit of an understanding of the other benefits? What are the benefits you observe?
Well, as far as we are completely potty trained, he's able to go places and do things. About 2 months after the study, his sister was getting married, and that was in Oklahoma, and we live in Arizona. So we drove all the way across country with Ethan to his sister's wedding, and we were able to stay for a week and then drive all the way home back across country. And prior to the study, we never, ever, ever would have considered leaving home for more than a couple of days because Ethan would withhold. And the few times that we did go away for a week, we went to Disney, for instance, or to my brother's wedding, Ethan withheld and then would be blocked up, and that's very dangerous for our kids, and we know how that is. So our lives were stay home and work around his schedule. And after the study, we were able to just go all the way across country. He was transitioning fine. He was excited about new places. He participated, was in the wedding, he was in a wedding. So things that we used to have issues like elopement issues, where when he was really little, he would just escape out the door. We had issues where I was driving down the freeway when he opened the car door and on the freeway, because I had forgotten to lock the child safety locks. I know my friend Marcia Hines had a very similar incident happen to her with her son. When I was reading her book, I just, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. So we had all those crazy kinds of things where you live at this heightened state of fear because our kids doing all kinds of things like escaping or hurting themselves, or not able to communicate that somebody else is hurting them. And it's just this incredible change when your life is no longer that, when it's a little more, I hate to use the word normal, but a little more like everybody else's life is, where I'm able to take my son and take him to his sister's wedding and drive across country and come back, and he was not impacted, and he was able to use the bathroom everywhere, and he did wonderfully. And since then, our lives have just continued to get more and more like that. And prior to that, I think I was a prisoner in my own home and slightly crazy, because all I did was research on the internet, 8-10 hours a day, as much as I possibly could. How do I fix this? How do I fix this? What is this problem? Everybody else's opinions of it, from the absolute left-wing crazies to the far right-wing. I mean, everybody, because when you're an obsessed autism mom, like I was, that's what you do. You look for answers. And fortunately for me, I had support and somebody there who was willing to say, okay, you stay home and figure this out with Ethan, and I'll support the family. And you go do what you've got to do, and I'll do what I've got to do, and we'll work as a team to figure this out. And that is so incredibly important. So happy Father's Day to you dads who also stick it out and
Yeah.
support us in that. So anyway, Ethan has made fantastic change since then, and our lives are completely different. And I really, really want to talk about trying to get the funding out there, because there's Professor Adams is really working hard, ARI at ASU, at getting more studies done. I know that the children's study has been fast tracked and they're really working on that, but we also have an adult study out there that really needs to be done too, because not only are these little guys out there like ours suffering with really bad GI issues and new mommies having this, but I feel for the moms who are out there in the trenches who've been doing this a lot longer than I have, that have adults that are staying at home, living in that prison too, that are trying to get somebody to listen to them, that their child's GI issues, there has to be a better way. There has to be some help for them. It can't just be, that's autism. You know, that's his label.
Yeah.
No, a symptom. If he didn't have autism as a label, would you look at this person as a person and see that this is a debilitating GI issue, and we need to address this? And then would you not work on that and help them feel better? And it only makes sense that when someone feels better, their life becomes better. My son, the way I explained it to many of my friends is like this. Remember when you had the flu last time and you couldn't go to work because you had really bad diarrhea and you stayed home for a few days because you were afraid to get away from the toilet? Mm-hmm. And remember how irritable and grouchy you were? And you just didn't want to deal with people in your face? And you didn't want people requesting that you do things for them or follow their instructions or be nice? You just didn't want to be bothered with. Now, imagine taking that week off work. Now imagine your life being that for the next 7 years straight. Nonstop GI pain, nonstop having that diarrhea, afraid to get away from a toilet, so much so that you would even put on a diaper yourself to keep yourself from having an accident. Now, would you feel like going to school and having all of your friends and peers, know that that's what you were going through? Would you feel like trying to communicate with people and tell them, I'm hurting, I'm in pain? Would you feel like learning new stuff? No, because you're in so much pain. What happens when you have that pain for 7 years? That's what my son had. Mm-hmm. So when we took away that pain, all of a sudden you see who he really is. Yep. Because all of a sudden his personality comes out and he's able to not be in pain and discomfort. And hey, what do you know? This gut microbiome, all these bacteria create, now we're finding out, certain chemicals that your brain needs, your neurotransmitters need. We need dopamine and serotonin. And guess what? Guess where that's created? Down here. So if we're helping these kids feel better and we're fixing their guts, and if we were able to do that for somebody, say, imagine if you were him and you had the flu for 7 years and never could get away from that bathroom, how much different would your life be when we suddenly fixed that?
Yep. Yeah.
And that's basically all it is. It's, this person has these severe symptoms. If we can treat those symptoms, how much is their life going to change? Quality of life is important for everyone, whether or not they have a label of autism or not. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. And it's just simply, we need to help these kids feel better. Autism is medical. There are a lot of comorbidities that come along with autism. And there are so many things that are treatable. Just because a person has the label of autism doesn't mean we should dismiss all of the other things that come with their health issues.
I would like to ask you at this point, because it's been basically 5 years since the trial now. Would you say that Ethan has been is fully recovered, and could you say that at this point?
No, I wouldn't say he's fully recovered. What I would say is I hate to even throw a percentage on it, but I kind of look at it like a stroke patient who's recovering from a stroke, mm-hmm. or any other type of brain injury. Encephalitis, encephalopathy does that to a child's brain, and I'm pretty sure that's what my son was experiencing. Mm-hmm. So when a child suffers, or anybody suffers from some sort of trauma, And we're working on fixing that trauma. We're slowly recovering that injury. So I wouldn't say that he's miraculously cured. What I would say is that he's maybe 85% better than he was prior to the study.
85%.
I'm saying, yeah.
Wow.
He did a complete 180 from our lives being in the really moderate, almost severe range. I know a lot of other parents whose kids are a little more severe, so I wouldn't want to say that he was like super severe. I would say moderate to severe, with a lot of challenges, to now blending in. And if a lot of parents have asked me that, well, is he mainstreamed again? No, I don't want to mainstream him yet. He's what I would consider, back in the old days they would call an Aspie kid. I would say he would fit something like that type of a kid. And what I actually was talking to him about today, I know a lot of people want to see Ethan, see how he talks, see what happens, and what he's like. So he and I talked today about me doing this interview, and I asked him if it was okay that I do this interview and share his story. And he said, yeah, Mom, I'm okay with that. And I asked, would you like to do an interview with me, Ethan? Could we maybe do a short little video so that I could show other parents how well we communicate now? And he said, yeah, we could do that. Plus he wants to be famous, so he's down with it. So I might do that shortly.
He is already famous, that's for sure.
I might do that in the next week to give him an opportunity to show people how well he communicates. We might do a little snip and share with everybody too. But so that's just what I wanted to share with everybody, that this is really important, that we fund these studies and we get this research out there, that it's not crazy miracle pill hope, but it is huge change hope.
Now, do you currently follow some of the same diets that you were following before? Are you still on, gluten-free, casein-free, those kinds of things? I mean, because it sounds like, once you get, these type of improvements in your gut, then it is important to avoid, the inflammation or inflammatory processes rather, to go back and, go back to a previous state, right?
Yeah. So absolutely, we stay on the gluten-free, casein-free diet for him. And the reason why I do that is because we had the lab work done and we have blood work that proves that, yes, he's absolutely got these allergies. So I know every time I've exposed him to even the smallest amount of dairy, we have extreme behaviors. And what I mean by extreme behaviors is outrage. He's just, his anger and tears and what I would describe similar to like severe hormonal rage, like premenstrual syndrome, like really. So we avoid those foods altogether if at all possible. I won't say, like I said, we are not perfect by any means. I attend a lot of different groups and meetings, and I have a few recovery moms that are my absolute gurus that I follow and I'm trying to learn from. I'm trying to learn how to do a better diet, so that, because I do believe that if we continue to feed him healthy foods and he gets rid of just a lot of and he gets better about eating fruits and vegetables, and that more recovery will come, and that he will get better and better and better with time, because what you put into your body and what happens with your body, good fuel is what a vehicle can run on, and bad fuel, you're gonna not run as well. And so I'm trying to teach him the value of that. But absolutely, I won't take him off that, because every time we've thought, maybe he might be good enough to try pretzels.
Right.
And at the ball game, and then they put butter all over it, and then we cry all the way home because our team lost, and then we take that personally and we have issues. So we're still on the spectrum, but a very different end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and this doesn't have to be the end of it, obviously. And and I guess I'm just gonna say it because I think that many parents are thinking this right now, right? So you get an improvement of 85%. He's still on the spectrum. But then, you have other trials that this is exactly the kind of candidate that they're looking for. They're looking for high functioning, high verbal IQ candidates for, stem cell therapy, for example. So
I have some friends who've used that.
Excuse me?
I have some friends who've actually tried stem cell therapy with some of their kids.
Right.
I've seen some really great results.
Yeah, and this is the actual candidate that it seems like stem cell therapy works very well for, specifically these individuals that are in this state that you're referring to right now.
Yeah, I also have heard Professor Adams talk about future studies, something to do with stem cells combined. But I don't want to say that they're going to do something like that. I thought I overheard something about doing some research with both things in the future. And I agree with you. I think that there's a lot more work to be done, and we need to get word out there to help fund these studies and fund this research, because there are so many people out there right now who need this help. I mean, there really are. And it's just, I think about when my son was first diagnosed, the statistics were like 1 in 110 kids. And now here in the Valley, it's like 1 in 36. So it used to be when Ethan was first diagnosed and I went out into public, people were still giving you the look like, what's up with your kid when he misbehaved? And that's why we stayed in our prison at home, because I just didn't want to deal with other people on top of autism. You know, I couldn't take both. I could deal with the autism, but I couldn't deal with people's crappy attitudes about my son's autism and trying to make people aware. Now, when I go into public, there's no trying to make people aware. Everybody knows somebody who has a son or a daughter or a nephew or a cousin, or my sister's kid has a friend with autism. There's no need to make awareness. Now we need to start working on, what do we do to help this and fix this, because this is not going away. And there are so many people.
I just want to say an editorial comment, Dana, along the same lines of what you're saying right now. There's absolutely zero sense on so many $1 million going to awareness and accepting autism when you need a trial that is $200K that could advance people's quality of life in the way that you're describing it, and we're not getting that funding. It doesn't make any sense. So
it doesn't. I mean, and the funding that we're doing is a lot of genetic research, which is great. We've exhausted a lot of genetic research, and in some ways, genetic research is really important. I mean, this helped us. Look what Rosie was able to do. Dr. Rosie was able to, figure out every single genetic code of every single species of bacteria in our children's microbiome. And then from there, we're starting to figure out which ones are the good guys and which ones are the bad guys and what they do in our body. And this is emerging science. They're just now figuring out. There are studies all over the world going on with microbiome studies. I read them all the time. Anything from, you name it, schizophrenia to, IBS to all kinds of studies going on the gut microbiome, because we're just starting to figure out that we have two brains. It's not just the one in our head, and that they both talk to each other. And believe it or not, your entire body is a functioning system. It's not like a car or a machine where you can just take away the transmission and replace it and, only work on that part of the car. Your body is all connected, and each thing affects the other. I can remember when they used to think that your tonsils were no big deal and your adenoids were no big deal, and they'd take them out because we didn't know what they did. And now we're figuring out, well, hey, adenoids happen to filter some of the lymph node, the glands from your brain, and all of that waste fluid that's coming out, they filter through your adenoids. And there's a lot. I just heard one of the professors speak about that at the Autism One conference. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Klinghardt. Anyway. So we're learning a lot, and there's a lot of research going on, but we need to fund this stuff. So I'll stop babbling because I freak people out.
I would like to ask you, so what are some of the new skills that Ethan has developed since the completion of the trial? I mean, what are some things that, just so that we can understand the new exciting things that you have been able to see as a mom?
Well, Ethan is now able to go out into public. We go just about anywhere all the time. This year, we had a goal. Prior to the study, a lot of loud sounds or really strong smells or bright lights really bothered him. He was sensitive to those things, as most kids are on the spectrum. So this year we were able to, he just suddenly really became into sports in the last 2 years, Xbox games, PlayStation games, video sports games. But then he started getting into real sports, which is really cool because his dad is into sports. So this year we decided to take him to a lot of sporting events, and his goal, Ethan's goal, was I want to see a game from each and every one of our professional teams. So he went to see the Cardinals play, he saw the Coyotes play, he saw the Diamondbacks play more than once, and he saw the Phoenix Suns play. And so each one of those big deals is a really big deal because they're loud, they're sporting events. You know, not only did he go and participate, he got up, he danced, he sang, he tried to get on the Jumbotron. I mean, just like, it's just a different kid, you know. Before then, there's no way I would have thought. I remember trying to take him to the circus, and we sat at the circus when he was still really affected. And we were there for maybe 15 minutes, just long enough for him to finish. This sounds awful. Just long enough for him to finish the cotton candy that I bought him. And then he was ready to go home. So Dad was like, wow, we just sat down. It's time to go home. But now, this last baseball game that we took him to for his birthday, he wanted to go to the Diamondbacks game. So we sat through the game and they were losing, and it was late at night, middle of the week. And I said, you sure you don't want to go home? Nope, we're staying till the end. So, and he didn't cry at the end of the game when we lost. All big deals. So, yeah. And he has a girlfriend. He came home really liking this girl at school. Now, he does not go to public school. He does go to the Autism Academy, but he's in a group with other high-functioning kids that are right at about the same level as him. And one little girl in his class in particular, he really liked. And he kept coming home and talking about her and really wanted to make sure she got a special Valentine's Day present. So we bought her a special box of chocolates. And about 2 weeks after Valentine's Day, his teacher sent me a picture of him with his arm around her and her with her arm around him. And the note said, they finally admitted they have crushes on each other. And now they're official. And I cried because I can remember thinking, will he ever have a friend, much less a girl that's in him? So think about that. You know, your kid can have a girlfriend.
Crazy, you know. So what are some other success stories that you can share with us? I mean, besides everything that you have described, but are there any other success?
He's learned to ride a bike where he didn't have that great of balance before. So he did learn to ride a bike. That didn't last too long though. He fell and broke his arm. So, which by the way, was the only time that we've had to have antibiotics in the last 5 years, is when he had surgery for his arm. And then right after, when he had surgery to remove the plate that they put in his arm, because the bone started to grow and pull apart instead of back together. So we had a plate in there, but whatever. So that's the only times that we've had problems where we've had to have any kind of antibiotics or anything. So I'm not sure. I have managed to keep him off antibiotics, try to keep his system clean, keep him on a healthy diet, keep exposing him to social situations, continue to make that our goal. Going out into public, his dad's out with him right now. They're right now hunting for more bobbleheads because he's been bobblehead collecting. So we use bobbleheads as motivation to go out into the public, and he does his own shopping, his own negotiating, is paying for his own items, all things I didn't know that he'd be able to do. And he just walks up and talks to people, you know, tries to introduce himself to people and have conversation with people. And these things he probably wouldn't have done before. And he's getting better about trying to determine who's a safe person to talk to as opposed to not so safe people. So that stranger danger awareness is starting to emerge. He does not dart into traffic as bad. Occasionally we have to remind him, hey, watch before you cross the street. But before, we would hold on to him with a death grip for fear that he might dart into traffic in a parking lot or across the street. We don't do that anymore. We can give him, 15, 20 feet away from us and just kind of watch him and verbally remind him rather than being worried about if I'm not close enough to grab him. Those kinds of things are things of the past. There's no more fear in that.
So what were some of the recommendations that you were given after the trial? So did they recommend anything, probably besides diet, but was there any indication regarding other probiotics or prebiotics or supplements of any kind? Was there any suggestion as to, what you should use later on?
No, there was no suggestions. It was just keep with your life and let us know how he's doing. Prior to the study, they just said don't change anything, participate.
Yes.
We just want it to stay the same so we know what we're reading, if the results are our results, or make sure you haven't changed anything else in your lives. So we were very careful to stay prior to the study, keep our lives the same, only make that change with the study. And after the study, I tried really hard to keep my life pretty much the same because I had seen such great results. I didn't want to accidentally fall off. I'm teetering and thinking this is the perfect place to be at the pinnacle of the peak, and I don't want to fall off, so I'm not going to change anything. Only thing I've worked on changing is trying to introduce a much better diet with Ethan, and that's really tough to do. He has a few sensory issues still with chewing and textures and stuff like that, and he still has an issue with smell. Not anywhere near as bad as it used to before. He's willing to tolerate smells, but he still has some issues with smell. So we've seen a lot of progress as far as change in that way. But it's I don't want to give people the impression that suddenly my kid's miraculously cured of autism, because I don't look at it as cured. There's no word that doesn't exist here. There's recovery, and we are recovering, and he is so much better now. And because of this, I just wanted to also throw out there happy Father's Day to Professor Adams and thank him very much, because I embarrassed myself the last 2 times I've seen him. I've just walked up and told him, I love you so much. Thank you so much. and burst into tears too, and make him very uncomfortable, because I do. I honestly do. And for those people out there that don't know much about him, he is an autism dad. He has a daughter on the spectrum who's older, about 21 or in her 20s, I believe. And he is the most amazing man. He does what he does, all of this research, because of, just like me, just like you, the love of our child. I want it to be better. And I not only want it to be better for me, but I want it to be better for everybody else who comes after me down the same road I'm coming down. I want to make it better for those following behind us. And that's how he is. He wants to help, and he has a genuine love for his daughter, and he wants to find answers, and he's a scientist. So that's how his brain thinks. And that's what he's dedicated his life to doing. So I've seen a lot of people making comments on the internet and making crazy comments about, well, I figured some doctor trying to make a profit off us. No, he's not that snake oil salesman doctor trying to make a profit off everybody and find a miracle cure. No, he's just an autism dad who's trying to find answers just like us, and really, really genuinely wants to help.
Yeah,
that's what he is.
And
I love him and respect him.
I guess I just want to say, given my background, for people that don't know me, I'm a statistician, and I am a consultant in the pharmaceutical industry. I know how expensive clinical trials are, and this price of $200K for just to continue this trial for adults in the autism spectrum. I think the range is between 18 to 60 years old of the participants is really not expensive at all, and it really goes to cover some of the costs, really, because there's also some other funds that are coming from other resources. But I guess I would just like to once again, Dana, besides thanking you, and I really congratulate you not only on the progress of Ethan, but also on not choking and in your situation, I guess most of us would have been like, very emotional, just simply describing how this process has been like. So thank you so much for sharing that. this is really fantastic. And it's so baffling to hear a story like this, right? With a few shots of grape juice with something in it, your child was able to improve 85%. I mean, a reduction in symptoms of 85% is just simply mind-boggling, and we have to get these trials funded, some way, in some way, shape, or form. So we're actually going to add the GoFundMe link to, so people can, that are watching this, so we can get the funds. I guess we're somewhere right now at $76,000 of the goal of 200,000. So we're $124,000 short, and we need to raise this money to complete this trial with adults. But again, I would just like to give you the opportunity to encourage people to contribute to Dr. Adams's research.
Yeah, I would really like to encourage everybody out there to please speak to friends, family, whoever you know, anybody who happens to be able to donate. The smallest amount would be great, but if you know any big donors out there, that would be even better. Yes, and encourage people to donate, because it's going to be world-changing, life-changing for so many people like us. And the thing is it changed Ethan's life, because Ethan is now going to be able to do things that I wasn't sure he was going to be able to do before. He's going to be able to have a career. He's going to be able to have girlfriends. He's going to be able to live on his own someday and have his own apartment. He's going to be able to, if he wants to have a career and become a documentary filmmaker and tell our story, that's what he's going to be able to do. Whatever he chooses to do, he's going to do that. And he's going to be healthy doing it. And I want that for everybody who's suffering like we were.
Yeah. And I guess I just want to again, as a disclosure, neither Dana or I are involved in any way, shape, or form in anything that has to do with this trial financially. Obviously, her son was a participant, but we have no financial interest in this whatsoever. We're doing this just out of love for kids and our love for families. That's really what moves us. We want to join forces with researchers and physicians and other knowledgeable parents like Dana, just to promote the understanding of the etiology of the root cause of the autism disorder, but also to find treatment alternatives like this one that we're describing today, and being able to provide families with answers, with not increasing awareness. We're not trying to make some lives better, just artificially, I guess. We're really trying to find treatments that can really reduce autism symptoms, like in the case of Ethan. And we're so grateful with you, Dana. I mean, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us, and we really wish you the best. And we're going to keep progress with you guys. I mean, I'm sure that Ethan is already famous, but we're looking forward to seeing that video of that interview. I would love to see that. And thank you so much.
He promised me he would do it, so I'll work on that and get that to you this week. And for everybody out there, if you know somebody whose kid is suffering with really bad GI issues, this is what's going to help a lot of these kids. Diet is really important. Do a little bit of research, do a little bit of your homework, and don't give up. Trust your intuition, trust your gut, and stick with your kid. You know your kid better than anybody else. Just remember that. Amen. You know your child's body better than anybody else. Trust your gut and do what you know is right for your child.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dana. I mean, we really appreciate it, and we'll keep up. We'll get back to you, and
Thank you very much, and thanks for the interview, Enrique. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure for us as well. Thank you so much.